This video, what we're going to talk about is why I made very slow progress during my fitness journey. Mainly so those of you watching don't make the mistakes I made and can basically avoid them and hopefully get gains quicker, because that's the main aim of this channel. We kind of focus on trying to get you guys in shape. So stay tuned for the video and hopefully it helps. Number one, I would say, is only sticking to one form of progressive overload. And some of you watching may think there is only one, which is just lift heavier, but that's not the only form. In the early stages, everyone always tries to lift heavier, which is a very good thing that helps in muscle building. But you're gonna find there's a point where you really struggle to increase the weight because you've got past your newbie phases. You're almost settling to where your body is kind of having to struggle now to actually increase the reps and get stronger. Once I got to that point where I couldn't really lift heavier, I would just purposely still go in and try and lift heavier without really thinking a little bit smarter and more or less thinking, okay, at the moment, if I can't lift heavier, what else can I do to make this exercise harder? Which is another form of progressive overload. So other things I probably should have done, which was simply stick to that weight that I'm stuck on, but slow down the reps. And I'm not talking about control, because I did that anyway. I'm talking about making it much slower in the movement, which makes it harder that you can't hit the same reps. Those of you watching right now, if you, whatever weight you normally lift on bench press or whatever exercise it is, just naturally go half the speed and you'll see how much harder that is. That is a great form of progressive overload, which I now do all the time. So that is definitely a big mistake I made earlier on. Once I couldn't lift heavier, I basically just kind of stuck with it and that's it. I should have literally researched a little bit better and thought about other ways just to make the muscles work harder. I used to be such a super fussy eater, and that had a massive impact in my gains because I wouldn't eat certain things that were very good for bodybuilding. Almost like a mental block or mini eating disorder, when you would refuse and damn near adamantly fight not to eat food when people try and push it on you to try something new. So I was definitely that way. The only healthy foods I would make is, if I could afford it, I would get chicken breast during uni, which wasn't that frequent. Then I would also mainly stick to chicken drumsticks from Tesco because they were cheaper. I didn't really eat any really seafood things, so I didn't really have cod. Never tried salmon, never tried sea bass. The only seafood I really had at that point for like the first probably 2-3 years of my training journey was like prawns, which I didn't eat too frequent because once again it was expensive. So yeah, I was missing out on a huge portion of food. So literally the only source of protein I would have at that point was protein shakes and chicken drumsticks. And the only carb source I was really having at that point was whole wheat pasta and just instant noodles. I didn't really eat regular potatoes really unless it was like chips from the chip shop. And basically I had a very restricted diet, and obviously I wasn't eating virtually no vegetables, and the only fruits I had a lot back then was grapes. So that was how my kind of diet was set up in the early stages, definitely the first 2-3 years. And it took me a while to break out of that, and it took like very many steps. Those of you that are watching that aren't fussy eaters, you're probably thinking, damn, just man up and eat. But for my fussy eaters out there, the few of you that are probably watching, you know it's much more of a mental thing. It's almost like a mini, like eating disorder. Like your body will reject the food almost because your brain won't let your lips eat them. So it's a really weird thing. But the biggest thing is that I had to change my ways when it came to being a fussy eater, because I realized that I was just spinning my wheels and I wasn't improving my physique as good as it could have been because of my diet. So if it wasn't for the gym and trying to get in shape, I probably would still be as fussy as I was back then. I had to kind of accept to myself that I should be seeing more progress than what I am. I'm still happy with what's happening with my physique, but I should be looking a lot better. And once I finally started, my physique started boom, slowly getting better and better and better. But it is a journey and I'm still on it right now. So for those of you watching, you need to factor in that nutrition plays a big part. And also the fact that I was definitely under eating back then as well. Like really, if I was to count the calories in those videos back then, I was eating between like 1400 calories to like 1700 to 1800 most days, which isn't good. So yeah, that was definitely a big factor into why it took so long as well. Another reason why I probably wasn't so lean either, obviously I'm in the building stages, but I definitely could have had a little bit less body fat during those periods. It was purely because I wasn't as active as I thought I was. Like for example, because I train at this point maybe 4, maybe 5 times a week, but typically it was 4 days a week, I would basically always tick when it came to online like calculators and stuff like that when I used to use them, that I was fairly active or very active because I trained 4 times a week. The difference is though, those kind of calculators, they more mean cardio. When it comes to resistance training, yes, it's great, but you don't burn much, you're not burning nowhere near as much calories as if you did cardio. So that is one of the things definitely that I didn't realize, that I just wasn't active enough. I didn't do much steps. I definitely didn't do year-round cardio. I only did cardio when I was looking to cut, which I didn't do my first official bodybuilding cut until year 3 into training. So I would recommend doing year-round cardio and just change the amount you do based on what your goal is at the moment. When you're natural, it's down to your genetics, your foods you eat, the way you train, and your sleep and all that kind of stuff. It factors in greatly into what physique you can build. So given the fact that I am natural, it's going to take longer. Like, bearing in mind, to get to the physique I have now, I thought it may take me a year, maybe a year and a half. I thought that basically if I just built muscle for a year, cut down for 6 months, I would look how I look right now. Which is not true. To build lean muscle mass takes years, especially when you're natural. So once you realize in your head that you're not going to look like some of these special athletes on some of these brands in the space of a year or less, you'll be a lot better off, trust me. I probably could have made these 7 or so year gains in probably 5 years if I really improved my diet like at a much earlier stage rather than like year 3 in. But that's the way it went for me, and you live and you learn. It's one of those things, nobody tends to be perfect from day one, because when it comes down to it, it is still a journey. Like, even now I'm still learning to improve and try and like really push, for example, progressive overload. Like up until recently, maybe about 4 months ago, I was really still lifting around 38 kg because in my head I didn't believe that I could lift heavier than that. Whereas literally about a month ago, I decided to start a kind of bench press for dumbbells progression series, and I realized that I can lift up to a good 46 kg for like 4 sets of 5 reps. So that's a big jump from the 38 kg I was doing for like 8. So you live and you learn. Sometimes you really have to kind of push yourself to get outside your comfort zone to really improve. And that is the same thing I did with my actual diet when I was a fuss eater. I realized that my physique just was not improving eating this way, and I really needed to make the change. Anyways, people, like, comment, subscribe to the video if you enjoyed it. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the videos, and be sure to turn your notifications on.
Make $1 million cash for you flatline. Make a master plan, watch it backfire.